there is this presentation we need to have, and that's why we have brought them from Lagos. From Lagos. Media, please. KOTS Catering, check their presentation. And of course, let's have our patroness, Mrs. Kehinde Daniel.
I'm Kehinde. Nice to meet you all. Okay. I'd like to ask a question. How many of us here are hotel owners or who are owners? Can I see your hands, please? Owners? One. Representatives, owners. Okay. Not so many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How, and the managers who work for the owners? Okay. Fine. One of the things I would like to say is that when we're talking about standards, the owners have to be committed. Otherwise, it won't work. Likewise, the managers have got to have a fair idea of what they are doing so that at all times they can guide their owners in the right direction. Owners need to listen, but at the same time, when you look at hospitality management, there's so many courses that you do when you are a student or you go for different courses. There's so many things that you do. But behind it, there are two main courses. Whether you like it or not, you have to do it. In school, it's not an elective. It's something that you must do. And what is it? The first one is food safety, and the second one is health and safety, or health and safety, food safety. Okay? Now, I don't know how often or how many of you have studied or attended courses in this area. Anybody? Food safety, health and safety. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're not doing too badly, but at least we're getting somewhere. One question I would like to ask is, when you have clients come to your hotel, or if you are a service food provider, how many of you have actually said to them, you know what, before we even start talking, let's walk through my facility, into that kitchen, into the back of house, before we now take them into the restaurant and we sit down. How many of you have done that? You have. 2, 3, okay, 4. Now, Benedicta, she said something. She said, we pay peanuts, you get monkeys. If you don't know, you will employ people that don't know. You will cry, you will shout, do it like this, do it like that. They have no clue of what they are doing. Now, it may sound like, what's she talking about? Everything that they've been talking about here, believe it or not, it all still centers around standards. Food safety management systems. You need to have a management system to do your work. If as a manager, you don't even understand what it's all about, then we're not going anywhere. Even if you're talking about, what does it do? let me tell you something. If you put a good system in place, you will earn yourself more money. You'll be able to pay staff better. You'll be able to provide staff amenities, what the staff need, you'll be able to do it. Their uniforms, where they will sit, where they will eat, you'll be able to give them more food. You'll be able to pay them more salaries, and you'll be able to think outside the box other than just what you're doing. So the question here now is, what are the aspects of food safety that you need to look at in order to get from point A to point Z? Health. You as a person, you have to be healthy, you have to eat well, you have to look after yourself properly. However, if you are working where you work, your employer should be able to look after you. Most people come to work and they are sick, and the employer turns the other way. There's no kind of arrangements for when the staff is not well. Now, what's the staff doing? He comes and he's blowing his nose, and you can tell that he is so sick. Guess what? He's passing on some kind of contamination. He's passing on some kind of germs and all sorts of things that can affect the next person. From there, in fact, why am I talking like that? Like COVID. You sneeze, you don't cover your nose, you are not feeling very well. Then we didn't know what COVID was all about. But guess what? You're passing some kind of disease from one person to another. So you need to look at how best you can provide some kind of medical benefits for your staff. Okay, you should be able to do that. Now, these are hazards of the job, the staff. That is it's a major hazard. It's not only because when you're cooking, you understand, let's not even talk about cooking yet. Yes, the hazards of the job in terms of contamination, hygiene. Okay? What are hazards? Hazards are things that will make you can hurt yourself. You're sweeping, you're mopping the floor, right? And there's water all over the place. And guess what? There are no signs. You're walking, and what do? You slip. You hit your head on the floor. That's the staff now. And I'm not talking, it could happen to both the staff and your guest. And guess what? You hit your head on the floor. What happens? It can lead to all sorts of things. And the hotel or restaurant or whatever it is, the owners can be sued. And when you are sued for this sort of thing, you're losing money. You're giving the hotel a bad name, or you're giving the establishment a bad name. So you need to look at the things surrounding hazards. Okay, what are the things that could cause a problem to your business? You look at HACCP. HACCP is what we call Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. Am I right, Kemi? Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. What is it? Hello?
HACCP is a 7-step procedure for anybody who wants to put in place the food safety management system. The food safety management system is a standard that is tied to the ISO, that's International Standard 22,000. And that's like the best standard you can have for your food business. So to actually achieve food safety management system, you have to have an HACCP system in place. You have to have an HACCP plan. And HACCP is a 7-step system. A summary of what HACCP does is you're able to analyze the hazards in your processes. You know the critical control points. You know what to do when you exceed your you have a critical limit, and you know what to do when you exceed your critical limits. Those are what we call non-conformities in some situations. So you know what to do to mitigate against those things and what to do as corrective actions when you actually get to those points. And then you also have a record system and documentation, because you cannot have a food safety management system without documentation. There is nothing to be reviewed. You can have a perfect process. Somebody comes in to audit your process and they see a good sequence of process, but there is nothing to tell them that this is how we do it. So your documentation is very key in ensuring that you have a good system.
So, the honest truth, with all that big English, this is what it is all about. So, by the time you finish, you will have manuals, you will have pieces of paper, or whether it's in your laptop, but you will have things that highlight each of the topics: your health, the hazard, the HACCP, the pathogens, temperature, safety, certification is last, industry, risk, contamination, hygiene, pest control. There are some places you go to, immediately you walk in. When we go out and we do audits, you walk in to the store, and all you have to do is breathe in. And you are smelling, excuse me, I'm going to be very vivid. You are smelling rat's pee. We know. In the meantime, you are moving one plastic container of, it can be even rice. You are moving it. In the meantime, that smell is there. So what does it mean? It means that we have pests running up and down the place, right? And they could have defecated, or they could have done whatever in their business, whatever it is they need to do. Now, the honest truth is that when you cook that food, are you sure that all of the pathogens, all of the bacteria you've gotten rid of by boiling, or by frying, or by cooking? You haven't. And guess what? People are going to eat it. People are touching it. We go to the bathroom, and guess what? We don't wash our hands. Please, can you move the slide up, please? We don't wash our hands, and you do your business. No problem. You scratch your eyes. Abi? And then you open the door. Okay? And you go to the kitchen and you say, hey, where's the pastry? Or where's the salad I was doing? You continue to prepare the salad. Guess what? If I take, there are these kind of swabs that you can use, okay, to check if there's feces on the body, on the door, or whatever it is. In the meantime, do you know how many people have passed through that door and have touched the handle? That's how diseases spread.
When we refer to safe, we mean that hot food should be served hot and cold food should be served cold. Hot food shouldn't be served at ambient temperature, and cold food shouldn't be served at a hot temperature. The right temperature for hot food should be kept at 65 or minimum of 63 degrees Celsius to ensure that the food is safe and the quality of the food is also maintained. That's the essence of eating it safe. And the cold food should be served cold. Your salad should be served cold, not in ambient temperature, that it could have started going off or compromised.
That one, we all do it. We all see it. Caterer. I'm sure we are many here. Abi, When you cook the food, you put them inside cooler. Not be so? But you see that cooler? The cooler is what we call, it's a vessel that helps you to carry your food from one point to the next. That's the work of the cooler. What you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to empty the cooler and put it into the right equipment that will keep the food warm. And remember, you have to tell your people that this food, we can only keep it for so long. After that, that's it. Now, what do? We go to the party, open the cooler, dish am, give. Go to another, wait for another person to come. You open the cooler again. What are we doing? The temperature is dropping. Now, inside that cooler, what does bacteria need to grow? Moisture, the actual food, and a nice, warm area. Okay? And guess what? For every single bacteria, one, it divides into two. That two, you have two like this. This one will divide into two. This one will divide into two. Guess what? It continues. This jollof rice, they smell one kind. It has gone off.
Oxygenated people.
It has been compromised. Or you touch something and, it looks a bit slimy. Or the thing is bubbling and you just say, warm it again. Am I done? Hey, 10 minutes left. Okay, let's go on. So, rules of the game. Keep it clean. Hand washing, very simple. Wash your hands, sanitize your tools, keep your tools clean. Cook to the right temperature. You cook the food to the right temperature and you store in the right temperature as and when needed. Hot food hot, cold food cold. Watch the clock for perishable food that has been sitting at room temperature. We make food, not even fruits. And you see them, they would have cut it, wrapped it, and they just put it in the show glass or somewhere. When you need it, those people that do take away especially, take and you give them. In the meantime, you don't know fruits go off. And remember, that is even a food that is what? It's called, thank you, high risk. What do we mean by high risk? No cooking, nothing. So the bacteria is there. When you eat it, you say, I was having tummy ache. And you don't realize it, okay? Serve food at the right temperature. Your food must always be hot, always. Sometimes I find that microwave, yes, it will bring the food to the right temperature, but guess what? It changes the taste, okay? And they say just warm it, warm and small. If you don't warm it properly, the food will go off. When you eat it, it will run you.
I mentioned earlier that the HACCP principle is a 7-step principle. But to actually achieve the HACCP principle, you need to put in the first preliminary 5 steps, whereby you assemble a team, because everybody cannot be HACCP team. You have to single out people who will be responsible for the process. When you assemble the team, you describe your finished product. If you have 10 finished products, you know what the expectation is for each item and each of your products. You define the intended use and the consumer for each of the products. There are some products that are actually intended for young children. There are some that are intended for adults. You know the use and the consumer, target consumer for your product. And then you create a process flow. You have a process flow diagram that at every point you know what you do at every point, so I can identify the critical control point and the critical limits that you don't have to exceed. So once you have your flow diagram, you can easily monitor your process flow and ensure that you are complying with the process. And then you verify your process diagram. At every stage, you verify that you are still in line with what you're supposed to do. Then the 7 principles is what I explained earlier. You conduct an hazard analysis. You identify your critical control points. You establish critical limits. You establish a monitoring requirement. You have to have a monitoring system. That's what your HACCP team will do. That's the team that you have assembled in the first step. Then you establish a corrective action for deviations. You have procedures for verification and your HACCP plan, and you have a record-keeping procedure to document all of your HACCP system. Thank you.
So, our solution to food business. Our solution to food business, kitchen design in accordance with the ISO 22,000 Food Safety Management System, kitchen facility audits to ensure compliance with food safety management system, staff training and certification, advisory services on food safety management systems and ISO. Now, I tell you that if you put together you have a proper system. You see those oil rig jobs you are looking for, those big multinationals that you want to work with them, and every time you send in your application with all whatever it is that you do, you will get it. You will get it, and what does that do? It gives you more money for the business. You can look after your staff, etc., etc. Any questions, concerns, comments?